I'm back. Good morning. I have a question for you. Did you hear about the two boys? They were walking home from church, and they had just heard a strong preaching on the devil. And the other one said, "What do you think about all that Satan stuff?" And the other boy replied, "Well, you know how Santa Claus turned out. It's probably your dad." That one cracked me up. I'm glad it brought some humor to your day, because we all need humor. And aren't these TVs magnificent? They did such a good job, and they're finally up, and I love it. So we're so grateful. And I've been practicing this week. That's the best decision I ever made. And I recognize that I don't always think about the decisions I make and them being the best decision that I ever made. And my husband was emptying our pool and doing all that stuff to make it all nice for the summer. And when he walked out the door, I said, "You know what? You're the best decision I ever made." And I go, "And when you challenge my choices, remember, you were one of them." So I really think about our choices and when we make them and how they move, how we need to become aware of the mental attitude or the meaning that we bring to things, most often in the midst of great change. And so I know at this center, hiring a new minister, and things are changing, and I am trying to do them, just small things slowly, but I recognize from a different perspective or point of view, it might seem like it's in a hurry. I do consult, and we do have meetings, and we're very purposeful in those changes. So as part of that, I really wanted to talk about the 15 commitments of conscious leadership, because I do look at everybody in our membership as an indirect leader or a leader of this center. We are members. We all have an ownership in it. We all have a place, and we want it to be the most vibrant, energetic, magnetic place that just pulls people in because they want to find out who they truly are, which is what we specialize in, is taking you deep. And as I said in the opening, we're a teaching center, but we are so much more than that. We're a place where we can come together and have fun and cry together and feel our feelings together, and also when things aren't going quite right, we can find a practitioner to talk to, or if we have strong feelings about something, that we can look to someone to hear us. And so, I really wanted to take a look at these 15 commitments. We obviously can't visit them all today, but we are going to look at the first 3. And the reason that this is something that's very important to me is because this is a shared space, and all of you matter, and all of you count. And so how we're bringing our best selves to every situation, me included, sometimes needs to be cultivated, sometimes we need to brush up on it, and sometimes we just need a little self-awareness. So that is the first step, taking radical responsibility. In the book, The 15 Commitments of Conscious Leadership, which I am going to have Sudra order some copies and put them in the bookstore. And it's really a great book, not only for leaderships for organization, but for your family, your community, your life. It has very, very, very deep and profound tips in there on how we can have right human relations, good conversations, and take responsibility for ourselves. So one of the things that they talk about in the book, and it's a recurring theme, is when we are above the line or below the line. So in conscious leadership, undertaking radical responsibility, you would be considered above the line in your communication if you commit to taking full responsibility for your life and supporting others, taking responsibility for theirs. We would be below the line in our communication if we commit to blaming others, myself, for what is wrong with the world. If we bring in that victim mentality, the villain, the hero, taking less or more than 100% of what we think, feel, and do on any given day. And I know it's really challenging to do because, like I said, my practice this week has been, this is the best choice I've ever made. And I was reading this little post on Instagram about how to talk to children and how to remind them that you love them. And that was one of the things, is to say to them, you're the best choice I've ever made. So I've been saying that to my kids, but as I said it, it's grown. Like I said, I said it to Bill, and I recognize that every choice we make is the best choice and best decision that we ever made, because it's the only moment, right? There is only that moment. So whether that yields a positive, or what we call a positive or negative effect, it doesn't really matter. What matters is what happens after that, how we take ownership of that, how we grow from that. And so at the heart of conscious leadership lies the commitment to be aware, to defend, to be defined as a state of being, an awareness, an awakening to our feelings, surroundings, and the consciousness invites us into a conversation through curiosity. When we apply the first, taking radical responsibility, we embrace new ideas. We have the power to shape our own reality by how we meet that moment, right? What meaning we bring to that moment. You know, one of the things that I've been looking at is life itself. If you look at the planet and you exit all the people, houses, and you just have wildlife and nature and, you know, this beautiful planet, and nobody's inhabiting it, it's just being, there is no meaning, really. The meaning comes the minute we are born, we are raised, we are conditioned, and as we meet each moment, we bring to it meaning. So in radical responsibility, we understand the meaning that we are bringing to each moment and each change in our families, in our communities, in our politics, and in everything. So we begin to look at what meaning we're bringing. What I discovered about myself is it's varied based on how I was raised, and you know, my father was in the military. I've said this before. I was raised, my mom came from a very poor family in Newfoundland. They had a two-bedroom house with 7 kids. And so, alcoholic family. And so you cultivate some particular ways of looking at the world. And what I found interesting as I've practiced this all week, my mom called me yesterday and said, hey, you know, I know I wasn't the best mom, but I did the best that I could. And I said, yeah, Mom, you did. And she said, I think I realized that I should have been more curious, that I should have connected with you more. And instead of thinking that I knew what was right for you because I was older, that I could have actually used it to connect with you and ask you more questions about what you wanted and what you thought and what you hoped and dreamed for. And it really came as a surprise to me, because that is not my mom. And what I recognize is when I go in and change, that I'm changing everything out there. And it was this really beautiful moment of she was taking full responsibility because I was practicing responsibility, because there is only one. There is only that one innate awareness that gives birth to everything for your own experience. And I'm not saying some of our experiences aren't painful and that some are harder than others to take responsibility for. And we do live on this planet where some things do happen, but the meaning we give to it is equal to the joy that we feel. And a couple other things happened this week, and I was asked, I called a mentor to discuss something, and I wanted to go from this happened, I'm going to look at it as an opportunity, because I want to make sure that I know the meaning that I'm bringing to it, and then I want to find solution. And she said, but Tracey, you forgot the feelings. So we must feel our feelings. This is the third commitment, actually, is learning to feel our feelings before we process solutions. And so she asked me, how are you feeling? And I said, I think I'm kind of angry. And she said, where do you feel that in your body? And I told her, I am so used to something happening and either blaming or looking at it as an opportunity and skipping right to solution, how can I make it better, that I don't even stop to center or see how I'm doing. Have you ever experienced that? Have you really noticed if you personally go from that really makes me mad, to going to someone to talk about it. And then, I'm a verbal processor, so I get that. We talk and then we feel better, but the solution really there isn't a resolution or solution, because maybe the person that we're supposed to be talking to, they're not the one that we chose to discuss it with. And so a leader would say, you should go talk to that person. And when you do, you should approach from curious. That's number 2 on the list of conscious leadership, is approaching from curious. When I started at USAA, I had a boss. I had not been in work for a couple years, and I was a leader in the job that I came from. And this was a period of my life where I left work, and it was kind of a drought, and I had, started to meet my teacher, and I was really suffering and couldn't find my way, and quite honestly had a victim mentality, a negative point of view for the world. And, but when I got that job, I thought I knew everything. I thought, I used to run a bank, and I, was the market creative person. I did all of the promotions and all of this stuff, and I thought I can offer them so much. On day 2, I was like, you should do this, this, and this, and this. And she's like, okay, Tracey, slow your roll. You got to learn the culture first. So bringing in culture and understanding the culture of the community that you're in is so important. And sometimes I can fall short of that. But what happens is not only do you learn the culture, but once you learn it, you can bring a little bit of yourself to it. And so I used to kind of challenge why they did things. And I was like, well, that doesn't make any sense. There's a more effective way to do this. And she would say, one time she took me aside and she goes, we have a saying here. And I go, what is it? She goes, approach from curious. And when you approach from curious, you open the door for insight and understanding. You open the door for what I would say the beloved divine to flow through you, to bring out in conversation your ideas and the ideas of others. And that is something that I am working on now as well, is slowing down and taking a look at things and asking myself why this is important, and finding the areas that I want to move forward in, and also opening the door for ideas. And not all of them will get implemented, but I love hearing them. So when we are a conscious leader, we become self-aware. We become aware of how we move independently, in our family, in our marriages, in relationship to our children, and in our community. And once we become self-aware, then we that's where what we do here becomes a really powerful thing. And it is an unfolding. This is why the best decision you ever make is the decision that you're making. Just like my mother, when she, was raising us, that's all she knew how to do. That's what she was taught, so that's what she did. I will tell you now, I didn't like it. I was a rebellious teenager. And when I grew up, I said, I want to do that differently. And I was thinking about this yesterday. I called my son and I go, do you think I approached from curious when you did stupid stuff? And he goes, well, maybe stupid gives you an idea that you were not approaching from curious. And I said, well, he goes, you know what I remember you saying, Mom, is this is not a democracy. I'm the dictator, and you will do it my way. And I was like, oh, yeah, I remember that. But I think you were out of line, and I needed to pull you back in. And he was like, that's not what you asked me. So we can look back on these things and, bring humor to them. When we're looking back, it's always easy to understand a little bit and give a little grace. But in the heat of the moment, being an independent leader, it's harder to give grace when you are opinionated about something that you feel very strongly about. But if we stepped back and we found someone that we could voice that to, because this is a safe place, then we can have that person ask us questions. And Fish and I practice this on the way up all the time. Sometimes she's like, I'm not ready to answer that question. And I'm like, I didn't ask you if you were ready. I want the answer. But we become good at this balance of being independent leaders and knowing who we are when we bring ourselves to any event. And sometimes I am really good at it, and sometimes not. But you know what? It's okay, because the next moment, when you become self-aware, you can observe yourself in what you do when things don't go your way. For me, I I go, oh my God, I can't believe I did that again. How can I do that again? Who do I need to call? Who do I need to apologize? And this whole thing runs. But what I do now is, hey, that's the best decision you had at the moment. You made it. What decision or action needs to be taken here from a place of conscious awareness? And when we bring these principles into a community, then we thrive at the highest level because we're all taking responsibility for ourselves. And when that happens, joy is the natural occurrence of radical responsibility, approaching from curious and feeling our feelings. I have something to say about feeling your feelings because when this person was having this talk with me and she was asking me what I felt, I couldn't tell her. I knew that I was feeling it here. I knew that I had a lot of fervor, and she's like, Tracey, that's called anger. And I was like, oh, then I'm angry. And she was like, good. What else? Oh, I'm sad. Okay. And what else? And so she brought me through this full cycle. And what it was like was this imagery that came to my mind was a cage with birds in it. And each bird was a feeling. And as she had me express and feel them, the door opened and sadness flew out. And joy was the last bird to leave the cage. Curiosity flew out and anger flew out. And what I noticed is when I respect my body and the feelings, and I learn to feel them and I let them go, then they have served their purpose. And then this new energetic ideation with the connection to the divine can be present. And in a community, that's so important amongst a group of people with so many different conditionings and upbringings and ideas of what this beautiful home should be like. And I love that idea. I love the idea of us flourishing and working out our differences in a conscious, committed way to one another, right? This is what when I first started, someone asked me, what is my vision and mission and idea for the center? And I was sitting up here shaking in my boots when I just was processing that I got to be the minister, and two, I didn't want to give the wrong answer, right? So three, I was afraid. I was really afraid. But you know what? I'm not now. I'm so filled with joy because this is the best decision that I ever made for my life. My friend Jeff came last week, and he's been our friends for over 30 years. He's a teacher, the Dean of Ageless Wisdom. I really look up to him. You talk about a person that is committed to leadership. He has overcome alcohol, drugs, addiction. Like, you're going to hear his whole story on May 5th. He's coming to do a talk. So I don't want to give it away. But he met me outside, and he goes, Tracey, I am so proud of you. And I cried when I saw you actually getting to live your passion. And I said, oh my gosh, I know, right? It's so exciting. And so I really want you to know that I do. It is the best decision. What is your best decision that you today, yesterday, in this moment? I think it's you coming here today to hear some inspiration, to open you up to the divine, to release some suffering. So I can answer this question for you today. My vision for this center is to be a beautiful, which it already is, right? All of these things already are. We're going to bring fruition and meaning to them together. But a place where people can go within to connect higher divine, their higher self, to bring that forth in every relationship that you have, but mainly the one you have with yourself. And there's a saying that we have, making a world that works for everyone. And I would say in ministerial school to everybody, how can you do that if you haven't even made a world that works for you? Right? We have to make a world that works for us, and that is processing all of our traumas. I've told you I love Instagram, and I find a new teacher every week when I'm scrolling, and my husband's like, on the phone again? Yes, honey, I am. You're the best decision I've ever made. And I found this guy, and he was talking about trauma. I'd never heard it discussed this way. Trauma is innocence removed before it's time. And he talked about when a child when someone removes innocence before their mind is ready, is traumatic. This is where trauma comes in. And as we know, we live in a really interesting world, and that can happen in a myriad of ways. But he used the bunny rabbit as an example. When someone tells a child that the bunny rabbit isn't real, the Easter bunny or Santa Claus, before their time, this is trauma. Because we should let them live in that beautiful, illusionary experience as long as possible. And that it has been proven that children that get to live in that innocence longer are more productive citizens on the planet. They're more creative, they're more involved, they're more curious, and they're conscious. They become more conscious easily. And this is what I, as my ministry, want to bring, is that you're okay. The other thing this gentleman said is, guess what? Childhood is a trauma. You're born in a very painful way. You have a mother immediately that sticks something in your mouth to try to feed you. They're changing your diapers. They're poking, prodding. You have to answer to teachers, parents, friends. You get bullied. He's like, what about childhood is not a trauma? Now, we have inflicted traumas. Those are a little different. But, hurt people hurt people. So what we're doing here is become consciously aware of who we are so that we bring love and meaning to interactions the best that we can. We're not perfect, but we strive for excellence. We want to be inviting and loving. So my vision for this center, as Spirit gives to me, is to become a magnetic place where it is energetic and people drive by and go, hey, that's an interesting sign. I wonder what they do there. And they come in because they're curious, and then they meet curious people. And they see the love and the genuineness, and it sparks them to look at themselves, and something in the talk is invigorating to them, and it opens their heart instead of their mind in some particular way. And they walk out here just a little bit more conscious than when they came in. So they can take that to their family, to their school, to their community, to their job, and then it makes them want to come back more. When I was at Mile High, I was so happy to go there every day. One day I got dressed, and I went, and I drove over there, and there was no one in the parking lot. And I called Bill, because he lived in Arizona, and I said, I'm here on Sunday. There's no one here. I think they canceled church. And he said, Tracey, it's Saturday. True story. I was so excited to find some place that made me feel who I knew I was beyond all the ideas of myself. Right? That's what I want, is for people to come here and them to know. So I will tell you in closing, I was talking to Luke's other grandma who lives up here, and they're going through some difficult circumstances. And I said, I find your story so inspiring, and you really helped me with boundaries. You have really good boundaries. And she said, I thought the same thing about you. And I said, you did? She goes, yes, I actually took action on something because your talk, the one talk, she came and visited us, inspired me so deeply to take action on this one particular thing. And it's so funny because she's thinking I inspired her, and I'm thinking she inspired me, and we never really talked about it until I decided to have this authentic moment with her about something that I was feeling. And it was met with love and anticipation, and we had this genuine conversation, and it was really, really wonderful. That's my vision for this. And when we have questions, ask. Approach from curious. Just ask a question, and who knows, maybe if you ask a question, your idea will be a better idea than anyone could have ever thunk. Right? And we want that. This is your building. This is my building. We want to imbue beauty and virtues into this building so it becomes a beacon of light for everyone. And I don't really know how those metaphysical psychic energy things work, but I can tell you I know they do because it led me here, the best decision I've ever made. So.